I shared two conversations with two owners today about a challenge they're having with the companies, both a couple of decades old. Uh, People in the company thinking that the words performance and loyalty are interchangeable. So people are kind of ignoring goals and kind of just thinking that loyalty, I've been here a long time, is good enough. And it reminded me of my first lesson in the difference between loyalty and performance. And it was one of my early mentors that taught me about an expression. And I didn't really think about the expression formally. I actually learned about it as a young kid. But the expression is called a significant emotional event. The definition is an experience that is so mentally arresting that it becomes a catalyst for you to consider, examine, and possibly change your initial values or value system. That's from Dr. Massey, to give him proper credit for it. As I said, my mentor shared that with me, and it was a change going through in a company when I was just getting started. And it reminded me of an experience when I was a kid. I had a deadbeat dad who decided to take on that role when I was 8 years old and kind of walked away from us as a family. But he wasn't gone because I stayed very close with my grandparents, especially his dad. So I remember one day sitting with that deadbeat dad a few years after he left the family and kind of came back to visit his dad. I was staying with my grandfather one day, and I was sitting at the table with these two men, and my grandfather was sitting where you are, looking at me, and deadbeat dad was off to the side there, and he came into the house and he was ranting about how the world was unfair and he deserved everything and everyone owed him a favor. Didn't quite reflect on what he had done to us 3 years ago. And as he kept rambling for a few minutes, I looked at my grandfather and I looked over at that guy over there, and I looked back at my grandfather and I realized that guy doesn't get it. He doesn't even have any gratitude or appreciation for the performance and the opportunity to be here right in the middle of the father who brought him into the world and the son he brought into the world. All he can think about is himself and what he thinks he deserves for whatever loyalty he thinks he's been giving the world. And but back to the significant emotional event. It's really an important way of thinking in terms of transforming people. And I remember my first significant emotional event in business was with a leadership team that was actually quite loyal to an owner, about 25 years loyal. And I was the new guy in the company, and I kind of sensed this idea pretty quick that they were going to be loyal and they were going to test to see if I was going to be loyal. As a matter of fact, one day in that first year of my employment, the manager I reported to, who I wasn't loyal to, but I did respect him, he came up to me one day and he asked me, "Do you bleed our company colors?" And I said, "No, what do you want?" And he said, "Well, I'm working on this really odd consulting gig and I'm not sure how long it's going to last. It may be like Thursday until Sunday, maybe Monday, and I don't even think it's a really ideal client, but I just wanted to get your commitment to go on this trip, and I'm not even sure, where you would stay or what you would be doing." And I said, "No, that doesn't sound like a good idea. I don't want to do it." And then he walked away disgusted. It was funny because I hadn't really thought about it when he started the conversation, but that was one of those tests of loyalty. So I guess back to that story that led to my deadbeat dad. When my stepdad came into my life about 10 years later, he had already been working and he continued to work for the Ford Motor Company his whole life in a manufacturing plant. And when I was a teenager, he would take me in there. And I remember the first time we visited, it was a few years, he'd go during the open house and take me on a tour. And he stood there at the front door the first time we walked up to the building, and he said, "I'm going to take you in here, but I don't want you to work here. I want you to do something else." And it was kind of a strange thing because I knew many people, even just as a teenager, who were going to follow in the footsteps of their parents. And he specifically told me not to do it. And I thought, well, that's kind of a weird thing. Now what do I do? So I guess I'm going to keep doing things I've never done before because I'm going to take my stepdad's advice, who really was, offering a different path for me. So when I was in this job, and my boss said, "Hey, I want you to go on this weird consulting gig, and do you bleed the company colors?" I thought, oh man, here we go. I guess this is where it's going to start. So I made a commitment to learn as much as I could, as fast as I could. And rather than worrying about being loyal, I invested a year getting to know everybody in the company and learning about our services and our customers. And a year later, I found it. I found the next opportunity that was going to help our company grow. And I organized a couple of people who I knew were willing to work with me, and they weren't in management at all. And we kind of built this process together. And it was our customers, these new customers who were so happy with this service that we could provide compared to our original offer, in 1/3 the time, charging 3 times as much money, and they loved it. They just raved about it. And the reaction they gave was that significant emotional event that was so strong, it actually was able to overcome the loyalty. And a new CEO took over the company because the company was in a process of being sold already. And it turned out to be that significant emotional event again, because not only was it these new customers that were speaking up and just thrilled with this new service, but that loyalty that those old managers were hanging on to was then finally met with the new CEO's focus on performance and numbers, because that's what happens after acquisitions. So it was a great convergence of working on what was next and not worrying about who's loyal or who's the manager, just kind of focusing on growth. And you know, the fun part about it is I was going through this adventure because I thought, you know, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if I don't get a promotion? I ended up being promoted to whatever Bob says goes with the company we next acquired. But the fun part about what I was, and this is what you can do, whether you're a manager or somebody just getting started trying to find your way, rather than worrying about quiet quitting or rage quitting, learn as much as you can, as fast as you can, because even if it doesn't work there, you're going to learn a lot about yourself and about how business works. And those are experiences, not just skills, but really experiences and perspectives you can take with you, and they'll travel very well. So the difference between performance and loyalty is just the same old thing. And performance is about how to bring people together and do things you've never done before. So just like my dad told me, sometimes you shouldn't just follow your way into that door and follow whatever everybody else is doing. Do your own thing. Do something you've never done before. Focus on performance and outcomes. Don't worry about loyalty, and soon people will be following you. Talk to you soon.